I cycled London to Paris and back again in June 2017 with Mike Wells, who was writing a guidebook to the route. You start at the Tower of London and then immediately cross Tower Bridge. It's quite a daunting experience to begin your ride crossing across Tower Bridge because there are no cycle lanes on the bridge, and so therefore you share the road with all of the other road users, which is quite unusual for this route because mostly you're on dedicated cycle routes or quiet country roads. So you pass all sorts of iconic buildings in London, the Gherkin, Thames Barrier, the Cuttiss Arc, to arrive in Greenwich, where there are also some iconic and historic buildings that you can observe. Leaving Greenwich, you very soon get onto the National Cycle Network and onto quiet country lanes, which form quite a large part of the route, especially in England. You do have to cycle down a little bit of the M2, well actually on a dedicated cycle route at the side of the M2 with busy traffic passing on your right hand side, but you're very soon again into quiet country lanes where you can just take your time, relax and enjoy the ride. You cross your second major bridge, the Rochester Bridge, into Rochester where you can see Rochester Castle and also Rochester Cathedral. Again, very historic places. And then you cycle out of Rochester on a quiet road, heading for the end of day one at Hollingbourne. A lovely cycle. Having spent the night with my sister and brother-in-law, I was dropped off back to Hollingbourne by my lovely brother-in-law to continue the cycle ride along the Pilgrim's Way. The Pilgrim's Way in these little clips looks quite benign. In actual fact, a lot of the Pilgrim's route is along a really difficult cycle track, which made the going very slow. I haven't actually taken any videos of it because I just found it hard enough to actually keep myself on my bike and keep myself going, rather than also including taking videos. So the track was really challenging but also fun. You were constantly having to battle against sort of rutted ground with the prospect of basically being chucked off your bike. Fortunately, neither myself nor Mike actually had a fall. As well as the challenge of the cycle route, there are also plenty of opportunities for sightseeing en route and for observing the history of England. I haven't actually put all of these pictures in kind of order of how you see them or where you see them. I just thought I would kind of just put them all in as a kind of little example of what you might see en route. Being in Kent, the Oast House was in evidence, and what was interesting was seeing how some of them were converted into residential establishments. So then we eventually arrived in Dover and cycled alongside the beach before having to make our way up to get to the train. The plan was to get from Dover to Coulee via the Channel Tunnel. This is a car only facility. What you actually have to do is book your bicycle onto a van, and the van then takes you and your bicycle across the tunnel and then deposits you at the other end. And this is what we actually did to get to Coulee and continue in France. We arrived in Coulee late, due in part to the fact that the transport guys had not put our booking in their diary and therefore were late picking us up, and secondly due to congestion at the tunnel. which basically meant we arrived in Coulee too late to really cycle on to where we were due to stay the night. So the transport man actually very kindly took us the 15 kilometres or so and deposited us where we were meant to stay the night, which was really good, but it did mean that we missed 15 kilometres of the cycle ride. So the next day we made our way to Haidan, mostly on quiet country roads through really pretty villages, passing this roadblock and just seeing the French scenery. It was a really nice day cycling, but what I did experience was that it's much hillier. The whole route actually is much hillier than the cycle routes that I've been doing previously, which were basically rivers sourced to sea. This one was up and down quite a bit, and today's cycle ride was similarly quite hilly in places, but a really enjoyable ride nonetheless. Lots of restaurants in France are closed on Sunday and Monday evenings, and last night we had to eat in a fast food cafe. Tonight we had a beautiful meal in a lovely restaurant, although it was the only one that was open in the area, but a great end to a lovely day. Today we headed from Hesdin to Amiens. There was quite a lot of sightseeing on this trip, and we passed some absolutely lovely buildings. This building was inside a kind of walled enclosure, but you could actually walk in and look at the absolutely beautiful gardens that there were. We soon arrived at Crécy, which is famous as one of the big battles in the 100 Years' War, but having arrived in the actual town of Crécy, you can see that you can still buy battle type instruments within the town centre. Next we went to Abbeville, and as you can see there are a lot of beautiful historic buildings and artefacts that you can walk around and see. We spent a bit of time doing a little bit of sightseeing around the town and watching the fountain. The fountain rose and fell in a pattern that seemed quite musical to me, although in reality there was no sound. And then we had a little bit of wildlife spotting. Well, mallards behaving really cute, but there's quite a few of them on the side of the road just sitting resting, totally unconcerned with any cyclists passing by. Crossing this bridge was quite interesting, and what was even more interesting was very soon arriving at the site of this amazing garden rising up from the river to the palace above. I'm not really sure what it's called, but it is quite famous. More bridges followed, and then we saw a really nice mill. So continuing along the cycle route, we were cycling by the river, through trees, etc. A really nice peaceful cycle ride. And it was really the off-road cycle part of this ride that was particularly nice today. This machine is dredging out the canal, as you can see, and that was quite interesting to stop and have a little glance at for a minute or two. So continuing along the route, it wasn't very long before we reached Amiens into the sort of early evening and had a very nice night there. Today's cycle ride is a tale of two different experiences. The morning was spent sightseeing in Amiens, visiting the cathedral and seeing some of the other buildings around the city. The cathedral itself is absolutely gorgeous, as you can see in the pictures. and the rest of the city has got some very lovely buildings. We then went on a cycle ride through some small villages, beautiful scenery, etc., etc., to arrive in Beauvais. The cycling itself was quite easy, fairly flat terrain, and the quite country roads allowed us to just really quite enjoy looking at all the different things that we saw en route. So arriving in Beauvais, we did some sightseeing. I really liked the way that buildings were reflected in this building that you can see in this little bit of clip, and this one. And then we continued and a ride onto Coulee, Verte, which is the green route, and as you can see, it's well named for the fact that it's an off-road track and it's along a grass, gravel track, etc., all off-road. You can actually also do an on-road alternative, which is much easier, but we chose to do the off-road, more exciting and picturesque route. Even though it was off-road, we were still able to see some lovely buildings en route, because the route passes over roads all the time and villages, so you're entering villages. This is where we had lunch, so you can see that although it looks as though you're kind of away out in the middle of nowhere, in reality you're actually very close to villages, towns, etc. as you're passing by. At the end of the Coulee there, we continued again on country roads, passing small villages and towns to find where we were going to stay that evening. And lo and behold, when we arrived at our destination, we were in Coulee, Scotland. Having completed the Coulee there, the next stage was virtually to get us to Paris. It was actually really lovely to watch these young people dancing in this fountain at the beginning of the day, and I stood and watched this for quite some time. I just think they were having great fun, and it's probably something that the Squeaks would have quite happily joined in had they been here. Indeed, I have to admit, I was a bit tempted to join in myself and only didn't because I had a long day cycling ahead of me and I didn't want to do it in wet clothes. So we came across this really unusual bus shelter en route. The road from here to Paris, or from Coulee, as I called it, to Paris, was again a mixture of visiting towns, sightseeing, Rue Christine, my route to Paris, and seeing the countryside. This particular place was a huge tourist attraction and is the home of the racecourse. I think it's one of the famous racecourses in France, so that was really nice to see. We spent a bit of time sightseeing there. There were some really pretty villages that we went through, and it was nice to see these and to enjoy what was going to really basically be our last day of cycling towards Paris, although the plan was to cycle back from Paris on having spent an evening or a night in Paris. And here we are, we have our entry to the outskirts of Paris, buntings, etc., heralding our arrival. Yay! We still had about half a day cycle to get to Paris, but it did seem while we were in Saint Denis that we were basically nearly there. And this is the cathedral and mausoleum that you can visit while you're in Saint Denis before you actually head down towards Paris, and the end of the cycle ride. To get to Paris, you have to cycle through a large electricity generating park that stretches for miles on both sides of the road. You're then having to cycle along a towpath into the centre of Paris itself to reach our objective, the first sight of the Eiffel Tower, and I was really excited as I made my way up there, as you can see from all of these pictures of me sort of celebrating, etc, etc. So having achieved the Eiffel Tower and spent time celebrating there, we had a celebratory meal, we did a bit of sightseeing, etc. But that's not the end of the story, because the following morning we cycled to Notre Dame and the start of the way back at the zero marker sign right in front of Notre Dame Cathedral.